Sid and Nancy, a very amazing film directed by Alex Cox. It details Sid Vicious's love for Nancy Spungen in the late 1970s. It was brought out in the year 1986. The film basically chronicles the romance between Sid Vicious, Sex Pistols guitar bassist, and Nancy Spungen, a groupie who somehow found her way into Sid's heart. The film chronicles the ill-fated Sex Pistols American tour, where everything had sort of fallen apart. Sid becomes self-destructive, and basically the latter part of the film is those Sid and Nancy strung out on heroin, trying to sort of make it the best they can. The film is great. It is based very much on a true story. Sid was charged with murdering Nancy. Nancy was found stabbed to death in the Chelsea hotel. The film hints around this, gives you a brief description in the beginning, but really goes into the last days of the Sex Pistols and then culminating in Nancy's death. Number of cool things in this film. It does portray some of the Sex Pistols, most talked about moments, playing God Save the Queen on the river. They were not allowed to play at any venue. It does have Sid Vicious's rendition of My Way, which is something to see to be believed. The Criterion Collection does a great job of basically gathering a lot of material, as they always do. Criterion's always great. For those of you who don't know Criterion, I think you should check it out, see if they have your latest releases, your favorite releases. But Gary Oldman plays Sid Vicious, and Gary Oldman has went on to play Dracula and in numerous other roles. Chloe Webb, I haven't seen her in anything, but the one thing that you will realize, if you see any documentation video of the Sex Pistols, Gary Oldman disappears into Sid. It's probably his best known work yet. Cameo appearance by Courtney Love. It was pretty cool. Now, I told you this film was directed by Alex Cox. You can see it right there in the label. Alex Cox got basically most of this material from Joe Strummer. For those of you who don't know Joe Strummer was the Clash lead singer. Johnny Rotten, who was in the Sex Pistols band, has apparently frowned upon this film, given the fact that it portrayed Sid not accurately. The film, like I told you, is very good, very standout performances, and it does paint a good picture of the punk scene in the late 70s, early 80s. The one thing I will tell you about this film is the very ending of the film is BS. I'm not going to lie. And they put it, I think Alex Cox put the very ending of the film up there to give you a sort of image that love never dies. And if you see the film, then you can talk about it. The Criterion Collection, like I said, is very good. It has a lot of supplemental material, including a phone conversation with Sid Vicious before he OD'd. Sid was going to be brought to trial for Nancy's murder, but apparently he OD'd pretty much shortly after this. The film was put out, like I said, in 1986 by Embassy Video. It has the Sex Pistols' infamous Bill Grundy TV segment. The soundtrack to the movie was very awesome. It was done by fellow Sex Pistols member Steve Jones. Featured a song by Joe Strummer called Love Kills, which I still listen to this day. I mean, it might have been around in 86, but the song is still popping. The soundtrack is pretty good. And like I said, interestingly enough, it was produced by one of the Sex Pistols. So, Sid Vicious, Nancy Spungen, you can read about them in rock and roll history or how infamous they were. You can Google them up on YouTube and you'll come up with a litany of results. This film does do its best to portray them as probably they were. Down and out, strung out versions of Romeo and Juliet. But you got to give it up to Criterion for basically handling this well. On a 10 scale, Sid and Nancy to me is about a 9. It's been one of my favorite films since high school. So, I think you should check it out. Let me know what you think. As long as you keep watching them, I'll keep making them.